Okay, so as I said, I've entitled it the call, and a little bit of a, excuse me, I'll just get rid of you all. A little bit of an overview of what I'm talking about. The Asala, also known as the Festival of Humanity. I'll be talking about the world mothers and how they're connected to Jupiter's entrance into Cancer. I'll be talking about the portals of Cancer and Capricorn, which are known in some traditions as the stargates, very significant entry and exit points for different stages of the spiritual path. Then I'll go off in another direction and talk a little bit about initiation and the 5 stages of initiation. And then I'll speak about prophecies to do with the transition of the Great Age, otherwise known as the Exodus and the Immigration. Okay, so it is the Festival of Humanity. And to backtrack a little, it is one of the major solar festivals, and the 3 major festivals are the Aries full moon, that's the Aries solar festival, the Taurus and the Gemini, 3 over the 3 months of, sometimes it's March, April, May, sometimes it's April, May, June, depending upon when it falls. So the Easter festival, when the sun is in Aries and the moon's in Libra, is known as the Festival of Renewal, which is kind of easy to understand when you know that Aries is at the beginning of the zodiac. It's also easy to understand from the perspective of the Northern Hemisphere because it's the springtime. And it's an opportunity for renewal on all kinds of levels. And then we have the Vesak, sometimes spelt with a V, and often not always celebrated on the same dates, depending upon the different Buddhist traditions. Now, whilst it's traditionally a Buddhist festival, it's actually for all of humanity, and it's known as the Festival of Enlightenment. And this is when the sun's in Taurus and the moon's exactly opposite in Scorpio. And we can get a very strong, up close and personal connection with the light of our own soul and spirit. And then we have the Asala festival, which is also known as the Festival of Reconstruction, although you may know it as World Invocation Day. Although I did think I saw somewhere that World Invocation Day was being celebrated a week or so ago, so I'm a little bit confused about that. This is when the sun's in Gemini and the moon's directly opposite in Sagittarius. So for the astrologers, Aries, the Easter festival, is a cardinal and initiates a new phase, the beginning of the astrological, well, it's not actually the beginning of the astrological year, that's the 0 degrees Aries, but it's the first of the major festivals. And then we have the Taurian energy, which is fixed, where we're trying to gather and hold light and build light into our aura. And then we have the Asala festival, which is the mutable energy, where everything changes and where the energy is about dispersing and transmitting light. There are other spiritual festivals in the year and every year, but they're the 3 most important ones. So Asala is known as the Festival of Invocation, and it depends on who's doing the invoking. You see, if the Holy Ones are calling us to be the best version of ourselves, then they're invoking, and we're responding. So we have the evocation, that's the call, and the invocation, the response. But it can go both ways. We can call out for help. We can evoke and ask for help, and an invocation can come down towards us. The theme of the Gemini Sagittarian festival is to inspire goodness and spiritual unity in humanity. So just as the first 2 festivals are very much about a new beginning and getting up close and personal on a soul level individually, Asala is to do with the recognition of the brother-sisterhood of humanity, where we recognise we are spiritual beings and divine beings, as we spoke about in the Gemini talk a week or so ago. And therefore it also has a great deal to do with a recognition of the various groups, different cultures, different races, and we're all part of the same brother-sisterhood known as humanity. Now, at the Asala festival, on the inner, the Lord Christ, or whichever of the holy ones is standing in the office of the Christ, represents humanity and is actually the go-between between the world and between Shambhala, the divine first ray holy energies. And so the Christ, representing humanity, stands before the assembled spiritual hierarchy in sight of Shambhala, a beautiful image here of Peter Christensen's image of Shambhala, and he preaches the last sermon that the Buddha gave before the assembly. So it's a deeply evocative, and we invoke and we pray and we recognise our oneness with humanity. Now, these forces of reconstruction are on the line of will. That's the rays of 1, 3, 5 and 7. And at the highest point of the line of will is the will to synthesize, to bring together into a united force. This is a very difficult thing for humanity to do, to be together in a united force. And that is kind of known as the will to good. For ordinary humanity, it's kind of easier to try and practice goodwill. And what we think of goodwill is associated with Christmas, you know, the season where we're kind of nice to each other. Whereas in fact, Asala is asking humanity en masse to live in the energy of goodwill, or to commit to the will to good. This is, in other words, to refuse to do harm, or in the highest vibration, to become the principle of the divine will and power. And this is what's being asked of us individually and nationally. And the nationally is really important, because at the Asala festival, we're asked to disseminate the energy. This is the mutable, the dispersing energy. And the holy ones are interested in what degree of light are the different nations holding, the parliaments of the world, the bodies that represent humanity en masse. Are they holding light, or are they falling into darkness? This is what hierarchy are looking at every single year on the Asala festival. And as humans, we have to decide, do we separate into self-preservation, or do we become united? Yes, and in the Taoist tradition, they talk about the 1 and the 2 and then the 10,000. And so the Asala festival is associated with the 10,000 lights and how we can unite them to lift the vibration of the planet, because that is the purpose of the spiritual festivals, is to lift us individually and collectively. And so therefore, there is an examination of all the global bodies, not that we're doing that, but that the holy ones are doing this. Is the United Nations working well? Is UNICEF working well? Because these are bodies that are meant to be there for the betterment and the upraising of light. And at this festival, the Avatar of Synthesis, who is an interplanetary being of great potency and power, holy power, otherwise known as the Lord of Justice and Divine Will, he works. Yes, and I suppose if one could be a fly on the wall at such a time, we would come to understand how well humanity are doing in raising our consciousness, and how much divine intervention is needed by the Avatar of Synthesis, illustrated there with all the horses. Okay, let's talk about it being a festival of goodwill. And as a festival of goodwill, the purpose of it is to engender the best in us. In the Theosophical tradition, we refer to this as right human relations. In the Buddhist tradition, we think of this more as being able to live and walk the talk of the Noble Eightfold Path. It's not enough to have a philosophy. We actually have to put it into practice. We have to walk the talk. That's the Asala. And at this time, as I mentioned, did I say, the Lord Christ and the Lord Gautama are working very closely together. And the energy that the spiritual disciples on earth have received during the Aries festival the Easter festival and during the Vesak, our task is then to share that energy with the world. So there's nothing about holding the light for ourselves. It's about disseminating the energy that we have received to wherever it's needed on earth. And what happens is that over the 3-month period of Easter, Vesak and Asala, think of ourselves as an enormous catchment, and we are to gather light to lift our own soul and to radiate that light for the remaining 9 months of the year. And this is the work that the Lord Buddha and the Lord Maitreya, the Christ, expect us to be doing at this point. Many years ago, one of my spiritual teachers, I used to go to see him in Melbourne, actually, for healings, and he had on his wall a very large, beautiful painting of a waterfall. Whenever I'd go to see him for a healing, I was always struck by the beauty and the majesty of the waterfall, because it's a symbol, a motif for this dissemination and this downflow of light we have received over this 3-month period that we then send out over the next 9 months. Okay, now this light that is gathered over the 3 major festivals, it's not just for Buddhists, it's not just for Christians, it's for every single religion on earth, and even for those who wouldn't consider themselves religious or spiritual. And so it's gathered and harnessed in temples, both physical temples and temples in nature, all around the world. And I have Dendera there from Egypt as another one of the temples. Image there, I think that is an Asala full moon from a few years ago. And I have this image here of the Sagittarius, because as I said, the sun's in Gemini and the moon's in Sagittarius. And I particularly like this image of Sagittarius for a couple of reasons. For one, it's a woman, and most of the motifs for Sagittarius seem to be men. And for two, the woman has her hands on the earth. And there's something about the energy of Gemini that needs to be grounded and anchored in the earth. And in fact, the earth has a very strong esoteric connection to the sign of Sagittarius. Okay, and as I said, our task is to network and to transmit the light. Now, you may know people in different places around the planet, or different places around Australia. You may know people in different spiritual groups. And what happens is that we connect with each other on the inner, and the purpose of this is to build light into humanity and into the aura of the earth. Yes, and the keynote for the planet that we're living on, this is a quote from my teacher, the Lady Ananda Tarashan, and Ananda says, "The heart of the universe flows through the heart of Maitreya, whose heart encompasses all of the earth. From Maitreya's heart, the love of the greater heart flows to all hearts on earth. This flow is heart flow, and it is felt like a stream of goodness and loving kindness to all those who will accept it and who will happily and joyfully allow it to bring them to the centre of their inner being, where all is clear and peaceful." Such a simple statement that reminds us that to stay in the flow and to receive the energy from the universe through the heart of Maitreya and to radiate it from the heart of the universe, one heart through the many hearts. Now, most people have heard of the mothers of the world, the divine mothers, the holy mothers. And as I said, Jupiter is moving through the sign of the mother. And to my mind, there are 2 signs that denote the mothers. And one of them is Cancer, and the other one that's got a very strong connection to the holy mothers is Virgo. Okay, so there for about a 12-month period. And you know, Christianity will tell you, well, there's only one Holy Mother and her name's Mary. Maitreya Theosophy will tell you that there are more Holy Mothers than we can possibly name, and that they work in various capacities upon various frequencies in all the cultures of the earth. This little particular image here of the mother, it's not a very good image because I've blown it up from something very small. But what I wanted to show you was that the mother is holding the earth. You see the circle with the cross above it? Yeah, she's holding the symbol for the earth. And that's what the Holy Mothers do. But the question, and of course the other thing about the mothers is that they are midwives to the birth that humanity is going through. But some of humanity are having a stillbirth and they're not going to make it. Some of them are having a difficult birth. Others are having a birth where they're awakening into a deeper understanding of who and what they are. If you've been fortunate enough to meet one of the Holy Mothers, or who are really a vehicle or a doorway for other holy beings, then that's a great gift. Amma has travelled the planet for decades. Durga and Shakti, known in the Hindu tradition, and Lakshmi, Yasodhara from the Buddhist tradition and the Maitreya Theosophy tradition, and Lady Mira. If anybody's met this beautiful woman here who's travelled the planet for decades as a vehicle for the Holy Mothers. In the mythology, we know of Isis, we know of Kuan Yin, we know of the White Tara, we know of Pallas Athena, Minerva, we know of Sri Amamaya from actually was living. I don't know when she passed away, but she was in a physical embodiment in India in the 20th century. I don't know whether she lived to the 21st, I think not. Magdalene and Nada. And as I said, if you have met a Holy Mother in the flesh, and of course the Lady Ananda Tarashan, then you're extremely fortunate. However, most of us will meet a pupil of the Holy Mothers. Yes, just to reiterate, Jupiter enters Cancer on the 10th of June. We need to tune in via our Mercury, but we have to be extremely careful because the messages that we get may not necessarily be clear. And the capacity to receive a clear message from the inner only comes when you've cleaned up your aura, which is through meditation and past life regression and healing and such like. I have another quote here from the Lady Ananda. And she says she was speaking to a group of people, and I've just taken this sentence out. And Ananda says, and if you wish to help humanity, which I think you do since you are here, then I believe the best way to do it is to forget all thoughts and all notions of who is evil and who is this and who is that, because it is of no concern. We have to rise above all that talk and unite with the heart of Maitreya and look for where the good is radiating and where the good is felt, and then get very close to those people and help them do more good. Such a simple thing, really. No judgment. Let's not be concerned about where anybody might be on the spiritual path or who's doing better or worse than us. Let's just find where we are inspired by goodness and work to assist that goodness. Beautiful image there of the Lady Ananda, who passed to the inner levels in November 2002. Yes. So that's what's happening, and we need to call upon the Holy Mothers of the Earth to work over the next 12 months and to help wherever we can. As Ananda says, look for where the goodness is and strengthen the arm of that goodness, because we are at the pointy end of Earth's great change, which is, you know, the ages are epochs and they last for 2,160 years. And when you change from one age to another, there's a bit of an overlap, but we're at the end of a great year, which is 12 ages, the end of one great year, approximately 26,000 years. And therefore we are living through momentous times, and there's something about this image of the parting of the Red Sea that just reminds me of the times that we're living through. where everything potentially can be swept away and may well be swept away. And yet, you know, in that time of ancient Egypt, Moses led his people, the Israelites, across the Red Sea, away from the persecution of the Egyptians. Well, we have the boot on the other foot now, don't we, surely, the Zionists? Yeah, but we are moving through such times. Now, talking about the great change, must talk about initiation. And I hasten to add that I am not speaking for 1 second about an initiation that you can go along to a workshop and pay some money and someone will initiate you and it'll take 2 days. It's not that kind of worldly initiation. A soul initiation where one expands in consciousness and grows into greater light has 5 stages within it. Humanity en masse, the family of humanity, have the opportunity for initiation. And the first stage was the great approach, yeah, where the holy ones begin to call us. Post the Second World War, they began to call us. You can do better than this, humanity. Somewhere in the 90s, these dates are my guesstimate. Who knows whether they're anywhere near correct, but that's my feeling. Somewhere in the 90s, we started to get the sense that we're on the edge of something. Remember the Y2, what did they call it, when they thought the computers were going to crash at the year 2000? The build-up that was happening in the 90s is a great transition, something new's coming. I believe since the turn of the century, we've been going through the 3rd stage, the stage of ascension. Interestingly, Lady Ananda has a lot of things to say about ascension, and you can simply go to maitreyatheosophy.org and type in the keyword of ascension, and you'll get a half a dozen or more teachings on the nature of ascension. But effectively, it means let's not wait until we die and pass over to lift into greater light. Can we build a finer frequency into the cells in our body and into our auras while we are still in incarnation? I believe that process has begun for some souls on earth. What is happening, and yet hasn't happened yet, which Zachary's been telling us about with Nibiru, is the great reversal. And I believe that the 2020s and possibly the 2030s, who knows how long we've got, are the period when there can be a reversal of attitudes, a reversal from the head to the heart, a reversal from selfishness to compassion, and or a reversal of the poles. Any or all those things are possible. And then at some point, once the dust has settled, we may have not been on the planet for some period of time, we find ourselves, a much smaller group of humanity, find ourselves back on the earth, which will be greatly changed. Will this be the 21st century or the 20th, 22nd century? I've got no idea, but this is known as the New Dawn. So these are the 5 stages, and any woman who's given birth would know that there are stages. Oh, you know, there's early labour, there's middle labour, there's transition. Oh, you're in the 2nd stage. Hang on, the head's crowning. Yeah, then big things change. There's a whole reversal. You're no longer pregnant. The child's born. Yeah, and then eventually we have a mother and child. So that whole process of birth that a woman goes through is being enacted through the second half of the 20th century into the 21st century and possibly through the 22nd century. It's a big subject. Again, I would recommend that you go to maitreyatheosophy.org and type in some keywords. You might type in initiation, you could type in the words great change, or you could follow this link. I've put together a book on it, which I've entitled The Children of the New Civilization. I think Zachary's written a chapter or 2 in that book as well. It's a very interesting subject because we are living through this period of humanity's opportunity for expansion. So where and how do the Cancer and Capricorn stargates fit into this big picture? Well, We go through the Cancer and Capricorn stargates twice every year. Yeah, when the sun enters into Cancer, which will be not too far away. What is it? I don't know the exact date. When we have the winter solstice here in the southern hemisphere and the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, it'll be about the 19th of June. Is that right? Is that, yeah, about
21st.
the 19th
21st.
of June. And 6 months after that, we will go through the Capricorn stargate when the sun enters into Capricorn, which will be for us a few days before Christmas in the summertime, and for the northern hemisphere a few days before Christmas in winter. So we go through these stargates, and the stargates are dynamic cardinal portals. Yeah, they are entry and exit portals for the scheme of life on Earth. So every single soul that makes a decision to evolve on Earth will enter through the Cancer star, the portal. That's the birth portal. And at some point, we don't know how long it takes for us individually, we will graduate and move onto the path of spiritual discipleship, and we'll do that through the Capricorn stargate. Yeah, so Capricorn represents the graduation into greater soul light, and Cancer represents either a return to clean up something from our past or our past lives, or a brand new beginning. Yeah, millions and millions of souls are experiencing Cancer and Capricorn stargates as we go through this period of the Great Ascension and the Great Reversal. You must remember that the planet that we're living on has been known as the planet of sorrow. Yeah? Planet of sorrow. At the end of the great change, when we arrive at the new dawn, it will be a sacred planet. We will have ascended, there will be more light. The keynote for the Earth, as Ananda told us before, is love. But the wild card is that we have free will. And we can say, I don't want love, I don't want compassion, I want selfishness. But we don't know how many of the nations or the individuals are choosing the free will and putting it in the pocket of the personality. The sign of Cancer is associated with the crab and the ocean and the moon and the sea, and the ocean and the moon and the sea. They're all kind of metaphors for the subconscious or the psychic realms, the realms that are not of spirit. Yeah, there is a capacity to reach a higher level of Cancer, but the majority of humanity, and indeed the majority of spiritual aspirants and disciples, they don't access that. We have to work through the lower. We have to clean up our act around what we're carrying in our subconscious, what's happened when we were born, all the various incarnations that we've had. Now, some of the souls on Earth at the moment are not ready to graduate through the Capricorn portal and onto the path of greater love, the path of discipleship. And therefore, they have been given an extension of time, but they won't be having that time on this planet. They'll be leaving and going to a planet outside of our solar system, which we don't know the name of, but we have been told it is called Earth 2. If you see this symbol here of the sign of Cancer, you can sort of see that it's quite womb-like and quite almost like the breasts as well. It's got a very strong mother energy. And it's tricky, you know, if you're not careful, you can go around and around and around and dig a hole with the sign of Cancer. The evolved Cancerian takes a circle and moves it into a spiral. Yeah, so that's what's happening on Earth. And esoterically, we refer to this division of humanity according to their use of their free will and the capacity of soul light that they're carrying, or their commitment to cleaning up their act. Humanity are being separated and divided by our own free will. Some of us are staying on the planet, some are leaving through the exodus. Yeah. Now you think of that image I had before of Moses and the you know, he's taking his people and there's an exodus out of Egypt and on they're going, but they have to go across the Red Sea. Well, I think we will have a similar thing, as Zachary would tell us, with the oceans sloshing and the earth changing around us, as whether we can stay on the planet while it reconfigures itself and then come back, we don't yet know. Now, let me talk about the Exodus. I think this is more of Ananda's teachings, and I've got about a couple of pages here, so I'll read them. And I think I might have gone onto my theosophy.org and I typed in great change. And this is in the middle of a long talk that Ananda had given. And she says, we unfortunately have something called the great change to go through. And the great change is not meant to happen in the blink of an eye. Neither did Lemuria and Atlantis go down with the blink of an eye, even though some say so. Actually, people were warned hundreds of years before, and some parts, that's of Atlantis, were down in cataclysmic action before other parts. And, you know, we've been being warned for decades now that change is afoot. So Ananda continues, so we have been warned by the hierarchy very much here, and she's writing this in the 1970s, that earth changes would occur that would change the surface of the planet Earth. But not only that, it would change the way we live, and that Earth would only be inhabited by people who wanted to do good, to live by the will, there's the will to good from the Asala, the good will, and others would be transferred to other planets, which have happened over many other times in the history of the universe. So there's the Exodus. Those souls that are not yet ready will leave and go to other planets. And elsewhere, Ananda has said that the other planets will not be in this solar system. They'll be outside of this solar system. Other planets. And of course, they're finding other planets, but thus far, they're just finding them in our solar system, I think. And then it continues, it's just that we have now come here on Earth to an enormous immigration of souls. Other souls are coming to our Earth who are more heart-minded, and many souls are leaving who cannot follow the Earth's development, but after death will go to other planets that are ready for them. And so we have here on Earth enormously many things happening. It's the most exciting time in Earth's history, but also, of course, a frightening time. Yes, because we will have the great reversal, the pole shift, that we have to learn to live with spirit. We have to find spirit within ourselves. We have to learn to obey the laws of spirit, and then our fears will disappear. Because the Lord of Darkness, who is the contrast to the Lord of Light, is ruling this planet through fear, and fear makes people believe in things that are not true. And so what we mean by the Christ principle and the Antichrist principle, actually very strong on Earth at the moment, is that the Antichrist is the darkness ruling through fear, which is totally against Christ, and the Christ ruling through love and understanding. It sounds so simple when Ananda explains it. Love and understanding. Okay, so this immigration has begun. So some souls are leaving through the portal of Cancer, Exodus, going outside of our solar system. Meanwhile, other souls are entering either for their very first human incarnation, or some souls that I've met have a smattering of human incarnations, but not many. And they enter through the portal of Cancer, little or no earth experience. Who are these souls? They're angels, they're extraterrestrials, they're star beings. In the modern lingo, we'd refer to them as the star seed children. Are they the indigo children? Are they the rainbow children? There are other names, I think, as well. They are, I should have written it there, they are of the 6th root race. They are a different evolution. They will become a different evolution of humanity. What do they look like? Well, we don't know, but some of them are already here in bodies. Some of them are doing crop circles for us. Some of them are communicating to us through the starships. Some of them come from star systems like Andromeda or Sirius. Sometimes they appear to hover over sacred places. Look, it could be Mount Shasta and that's an image there. It could be Uluru in Australia. This image here in the middle is of Iceland, and I know myself, I have met many of the starseed children in Iceland. Every single time I went to Iceland, I met them. Okay, so very interesting, the Exodus and the immigration. And then we have the Capricorn portal. Now, astrologers would know that Capricorn is ruled by the goat, but is this a land goat, or is it a more mythical, oceanic goat? The Capricorn is the other of the portals that takes us onto the path of discipleship. So anyone, and as we spoke about a few weeks back, I talked about the various signs of the zodiac that converge upon Scorpio in order to break through into the sign of Leo, the birth of the Christ in the cave of the heart, and esoterically, metaphorically enter through the Capricorn portal. You don't have to have Capricorn in your chart to go through the Capricorn portal, but the experience of the Capricorn portal is experienced around the holy days before Christmas and after Christmas. The path that leads to the path of discipleship is known as the burning ground, and this is the burning ground where the aspects of the personality are purified or thrown off, and there is a great battle. We are seeing this battle all over the planet at the moment. Humanity, some aspects of humanity have entered the burning ground, and there is a battle. Will the ego, will the darkness, will the light prevail? We know that the souls will prevail, but we know that a lot of the other souls of humanity will choose to take more time and leave Earth. Soul victory is known as the birth initiation. There are different seasons for initiation depending upon which stage of the path one is at. But to enter on to the beginning of what we refer to as the path proper through the metaphorical Capricorn portal, this occurs in the 12 days of Christmas. So this is from the 24th, the 25th, the 31st, they're holy days, and the 12 days leading up to the 25th and 12 days afterwards. Yeah, so through until about that second week of January. Now, and the climax of the Capricorn portal is when the sun in Capricorn is opposite the moon in Cancer. Yeah, the entry and the exit points, and every year that's a different date. The next one we have is the 3rd of January. Yeah, so that is the windows that's happening a few days after the holy days of the 24th, the 25th, and the 31st. Okay, so I know I started out talking about Asala, and I've gone wider and broader and deeper, and I guess I'll have to blame all my Sagittarius and my rising Jupiter for that. The purpose of this talk is to help you to understand that there is a plan, a divine plan for evolution on Earth, and that it's not something to be afraid of, but it is something to commit to, and that we individually can move forward through that commitment with like-minded souls, and understand when we see all the chaos around us that the battle is happening, and that we just shouldn't be drawn into that battle. The battle that we need to pay attention to is the battle with our own personality that's trying to sabotage or to stop us or slow us down. But it is important, I think, to understand the bigger picture, because it helps us to stay the course. Okay, I think that's all I was going to say. Thank you for your attention. I have a few different links there. The first few ones are connected to mine. Other different ones, and then on page 2, this is the man, the Greek writer, the poet and the father, Stelios Pelasgos, and I couldn't find a website for him, who wrote that incredible plea for the Palestinians. And of course, those teachings of the Lady Anandas are on these links here. Okay, so I think I might just stop there now. and we shall speak to you another